Yes, this is one of my all-time favorites. I've been using this recipe for years. It is our zucchini pasta with pesto. This is a completely raw recipe, so when people ask me, Yuri, you don't recommend eating pasta, well, what do I have instead? Well, here's a really simple way and a more nutritious way to replace your traditional pastas. So what we're gonna use as our noodle is zucchini. So the zucchini I have is here. And I could get enough for myself with half of the zucchini. So, and I'll show you what that all means in a second. So I've got this washed off. I'm gonna peel it in a second, but a couple of things we're gonna need for the pesto. We got some basil, pine nuts, lemon, olive oil, and salt. That's pretty much all we need. You're gonna wanna use a spiralizer. It's this interesting contraption here. If you don't have one of these, you can use a vegetable peeler. And I'm gonna show you both ways that you can do this. So if you're using a vegetable peeler, your noodles will look like fettuccine noodles. And if you're using a spiralizer, they'll look like spaghetti noodles. So no big deal. And also some garlic we'll be using in the pesto. So I'm going to just peel most of the skin off of the zucchini. And you can actually do this with sweet potato. You can do this with all sorts of really cool vegetables in their raw state. Zucchini, though, tends to be the easiest and tends to be the most conducive to these types of recipes. So I'm going to chop this in half, and I'm going to do half of this in the spiralizer, and then I'll do the other half with the vegetable peeler. So the spiralizer looks like this. It's kind of like this little platform and little blade in there. And what you essentially do is you stick down a piece like that, and then you bring this guy on top, and then you lock it all together. Okay, and now essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this, and as I'm doing this, it's spiralizing the zucchini into spaghetti-like noodles, as you can see underneath. It's pretty cool, right? Okay, so that is done, and so you can see, I'm going to put this on our plate. So you can see that this is, that's a decent serving size. You don't have to go crazy with this stuff, especially because the pesto itself is going to be pretty heavy. So I might have a little bit more than that for myself, but again, if you're someone who's looking to lose a bit of weight, you don't need to have such a huge amount of food. This is a great portion. That came from half of a zucchini. Now, the other way you can do this is, if you don't have a spiralizer, is just using your vegetable peeler, is you can actually just shave noodles. Okay, it's actually easier if you have the whole zucchini in terms of holding it, but I'll just show you how you can do this. Okay, so now I'm making fettuccine-like noodles, right? So now if I wanted to do a pasta that is more of a fettuccine-like a noodle, then I would just have that, okay? So you see the difference there? So we've got spaghetti and we've got fettuccine, so it's up to you. Either way, it's all good. It's still coming from the same good old veggie. All right, so the noodles are done. Now we're gonna move to the fun part, which is the pesto. The pesto, again, it's a heavier type of sauce, but it's delicious. Not something you wanna have every single day, but occasionally when you want something a little bit more filling, more, when you're in the mood for something a little bit more pesto-y, right? So we'll take 2 cloves of garlic, and we're gonna shave them all down. And the beautiful thing here is because this is a raw dish, the flavors are just like unbelievable. So the garlic, because it's not being cooked, you don't need as much of it because you're gonna be getting that intense raw garlic flavor in the pesto. Most pesto in general isn't cooked, but especially when we're just kind of using the food processor and getting everything going in there, it's really, really flavorful. I've also got recipes where I've done this with marinara sauce, so you can make a raw tomato sauce, which is essentially kind of what I'm doing here, but instead of using pine nuts, you would use tomatoes, and you get a raw marinara sauce. So if you don't want something as heavy as this, you can go with that. So basil, I'm just gonna give this a quick rinse. Basil is the secret to pesto. If you don't have basil, you might as well just not even bother, because it's all about the aroma, the fragrance, which is really, I think that's the same word pretty much. But anyways, I've mentioned before that if you don't have pine nuts, you can still use like walnuts, which we've done before. But if you don't have basil, then you simply can't make a pesto. Basil is going to give it that really nice flavor. that color, and really important to have this. Obviously, the best place to get basil is, if you can't in your own backyard or in your own house, is go to your local farmer's market and you can get like a huge bushel of basil for like $1.50. Really, it's that inexpensive and it's awesome. And it just has such great aroma that if you just had it sitting on your countertop, your whole house would smell amazing. Smell like an Italian restaurant. Minus the bread and the tiramisu, which, just in case you're wondering, is my weakness. Tiramisu, if it's just sitting around, it won't last too long. That's why I don't have it sitting around. Okay, so basil's in. We're gonna throw in about 3/4 of a cup of pine nuts, if they can open. Here's another quick tip. Try to open packages with dry hands as opposed to wet ones. This is actually pretty hilarious. I need to dry my hands off. I have to call in the big guns here. All right, we did it. Okay, so I'm gonna measure this out somewhat. So again, this is kind of like my cup. So I'm gonna do about 3/4 of a cup of pesto of pine nuts. Pine nuts are really rich, creamy, fatty. And you may be asking, well, Yuri, you soaked almonds. Why don't you soak pine nuts or walnuts or pecans? And the reason for that is because with the higher fat nuts, you don't have to soak them, predominantly because they're not as high in protein, but also because if you do soak them, then it becomes very mushy. So that's why I don't soak those. And we're gonna squeeze in the juice of half a lemon. And you can probably just add in more as you need to. So if you like yours a little bit more kind of lemony, and squeeze that in if you need to cut up another lemon, do that. And then olive oil, which we can put more in as we go if we need to. And some salt. Okay, so now we are going to get this all blended up. Here we go. Get my spatula, just move the stuff around a little bit. And we'll go again. You can keep it chunkier, creamier, however you like. I think we're good as it is right now. So this one here is gonna have a nice lemony flavor, I can tell already, because the ratio of liquid to solid is in the favor of the liquid. So it's gonna have a little bit more of a olive oil / lemon kind of feel to it. But I'll bring the plate out so you can see. And we'll just serve this right on top. Just like so. So that is a nice serving for 1, maybe 2 people. If you're munchkins or midgets or small people or hobbits, however you want to look at it, or somebody who doesn't eat a lot. But I think, for most people, that's a good 1-person serving. And there we go. So that is our, top off with a little basil. That is our zucchini pasta with pesto sauce. I don't even want to take a bite of this because I'm going to ruin the beauty of it. So, but I will be eating this just as we finish. And this is a great kind of lunchtime meal. You're not going to fall asleep afterwards because you don't have that wheat kind of brain thing going on. Really, really nice and satiating. And if you try this, if you make this for your friends or family, they will just be like blown away. So give that a shot. Hope you enjoy.